Welcome back to the Ottawa Symphony's RE-JOYce series. This is the place where we meet to revisit, together but apart, some of the best of the Ottawa Symphony's 55 years of playing for our community. Merci de vous joindre à nous pour réécouter la belle musique de l'Orchestre symphonique d'Ottawa. Before we get to the memories and music, please consider helping keep the Ottawa Symphony tuned during this challenging time for the performing orchestra. Merci de garder votre orchestre à l'écoute. You can help at ottawasymphony.com/donate. And now, please join me in welcoming our principal oboist, Susan Butler Morris. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome. My name is Susan Butler Morris and I am the principal oboist of the Ottawa Symphony Orchestra. The music I just played for you was from Rimsky-Korsakov's Scheherazade suite, which we performed in 2017 with guest conductor Richard Honig. That was the theme from the second movement of the suite called The Story of Prince Calendar. Today, I would like to share with you some stories and music from my many years in the Ottawa Symphony. My first concert with the Ottawa Symphony was, I believe, in 1978. I was just a teenager and a music student at the University of Ottawa. I had the honor of being invited to play as an extra musician in a performance of the suite The Planets by Gustav Holst. Each woodwind section in our orchestra has 3 regular members on its roster. For example, the oboe section has 2 oboes and an English horn, and the flute section has 2 flutes and a piccolo. But sometimes we play music that requires a 4th or even a 5th player, and on those occasions the orchestra hires additional musicians. That's why I was engaged to play the 3rd oboe part for The Planets in 1978. This was very exciting for me. The Planets is a wonderful piece of music, and I was thrilled to have been asked to play with the orchestra while I was still a student. Here are some short segments from the 4th movement of The Planets. This is the movement called Jupiter. In 1979, while I was in my final year at U Ottawa, I became the orchestra's regular English horn player. I held that position for 5 years, and I commuted back to Ottawa for concerts and rehearsals while I was pursuing postgraduate studies in Toronto. My first season with the orchestra included some marvelous repertoire, including Stravinsky's Firebird Ballet, Saint-Saëns Symphony Number 3, the organ symphony, and Mahler's Symphony Number One. Brian Law was the conductor of the orchestra then. We played Stravinsky's Firebird Suite again in 2007 and 2014 with David Curry conducting. Here is the theme of the Ronde des Princesses from the Firebird. Gustav Mahler's works are full of beautiful woodwind colors and melodies inspired by rural settings. As a woodwind player, it is a joy to play the music of Mahler, and I've been very fortunate to have experienced 15 of his compositions during my years in the orchestra. Here is the opening sequence of Mahler's Symphony Number One, which we played in 1979, 1995, and 2005. It begins with a slow descending pattern of fourths interspersed by distant trumpet fanfares and bird calls. And then it builds up into a lively rustic melody. In 1984, I became principal oboist of the Ottawa Symphony. My first season included another exciting work by Stravinsky, his Petrushka Ballet Suite. This piece has been programmed 4 times during my years with the orchestra, with Brian Law in 1984, with David Curry in 2001 and 2011, and with guest conductor Tanya Miller in 2018. There are not many works that we've played 4 times since 1979, but they are all true orchestral masterworks. Mussorgsky's Pictures at an Exhibition, Respighi's Pines of Rome, Mahler's Symphony Number 2, The Resurrection, Tchaikovsky's Symphony Number 4 and his Romeo and Juliet Overture, Verdi's Requiem, and Stravinsky's Petrushka Ballet Suite. Every time you revisit a piece that you've played before, you discover new things about it. Textures and colors and harmonies seem to be deeper and richer with each new experience of the work. This is especially true when you play the piece under a different conductor, as each conductor brings the music to life in a different way. We've had several guest conductors during my years with the orchestra, mostly within the last 10 years. Matthew Larkin, Jean-François Rivet, Marco Perisotto, Alain Trudel, Richard Honig, Jean-Philippe Tremblay, Nicolas Ellis, and Tanya Miller. Here are some themes you may recognize from Stravinsky's Petrushka Ballet Suite, most recently performed by the OSO in 2018. Brian Law left the orchestra in 1993 and was succeeded by David Curry as music director. David brought sweeping changes to the orchestra and raised the level of expectations from the musicians. He also created a strong connection between the Ottawa Symphony and the University of Ottawa, which led to the development of the student mentorship program, which is in place today. David's university affiliation brought us some fine soloists from the music faculty at U Ottawa, including Andrew Tunis, David Jalbert, Stéphane Lemelin, Frédéric Lacroix, Sandra Graham, David Stewart, Jonathan Barrick, Rennie Regier, and Paul Marlane. David programmed many works which challenged and inspired his musicians. One such piece was The Rite of Spring by Stravinsky, which is extremely difficult and which we played twice with David Curry and once with guest conductor Marco Perisotto. The symphonies of Dmitri Shostakovich are also very demanding of the musicians, and 10 of David's performances featured these symphonies. Shostakovich's fast movements are technically difficult, and his slow movements are achingly beautiful. He often gives plaintive melodies to the oboe, full of expression that is both dark and transparent. Here is the second movement oboe solo from Shostakovich's Symphony Number One, which I played under David Curry's baton in 1994 and 2006. The Ottawa Symphony has enjoyed some wonderful collaborations with other local musical organizations. Our most frequent collaborator has been the Ottawa Choral Society, a relationship which developed from Brian Law being music director of both the Choral Society and the Ottawa Symphony. Our other collaborators have included the University of Ottawa Choirs and Orchestra, the Ottawa Board of Education Choirs, the Cantata Singers, the Canadian Centennial Choir, Opera Lyra, and the Ottawa Youth Orchestra. Both of my daughters played in the Ottawa Youth Orchestra, and it was very special to have them on stage with me at two of OSO's side-by-side concerts with the Youth Orchestra in 2006 and 2009. A particularly memorable collaboration with the Ottawa Choral Society was our 1996 performance of Brahms' Ein-Deutsche Requiem, a German requiem. It was led by the OCS's conductor, Ewan Edwards, and we performed it twice, in Montreal and in Ottawa. The music of Brahms is so beautiful to listen to and to play, and it is such a joy to have the opportunity to prepare and perform it. We performed the German Requiem again with the Choral Society in 2006 with David Curry conducting. Here's a segment from the third movement of the Brahms Requiem in which the woodwinds have interweaving melodies over the solo baritone singer. Classical music geek in high school, and one of my favorite pieces as a teenager was Symphony Fantastique by Hector Berlioz. I even did my grade 13 French project on this piece of music. I was thrilled when David Curry programmed it for our 2001-2002 season, and again when Alain Trudel conducted it with us in 2016. There's a memorable moment for the principal oboist in this piece, when you leave your place in the orchestra and walk off stage at the end of the second movement while the orchestra is still playing. The opening of the third movement is a conversation between the English horn on stage and the oboe off stage, in which the oboe sounds like a distant echo of the English horn. In modern times, this is done with the aid of an offstage camera so that the oboist can see the conductor. Then after the solo, you have to tiptoe back to your seat in the orchestra while everyone's playing, careful not to get in the way of the harps as you pass by. Here's the theme from the second movement of Symphony Fantastique, A Ball. I'm not playing the offstage solo for you because it really needs the English horn to go with it. David Curry's 20th anniversary season with the orchestra was 2011-2012, and all of the concerts that year included major works that were both marvelous and challenging to play. Shostakovich's Symphony Number 5, Petrushka by Stravinsky, both of Ravel's Daphnis and Chloe suites, The Planets by Holst, and Mahler's Symphony Number 10 were all featured that year. It was an exciting season. 4 years later, in February 2016, David conducted his last concert with us. The program closed with Symphony Number 10 by Dmitri Shostakovich. We had never played this piece before, and it was a deeply emotional experience. I'd like to play 2 segments from Shostakovich 10 for you. First, the opening of the second movement, Allegro, which is full of dark, driving energy from the woodwinds. Then the oboe solo near the opening of the 4th movement. This andante movement begins with the cellos and double basses. Then the oboe enters and plays completely alone for a few measures before being joined by the strings for harmonic support. It's a very special feeling to be the only instrument playing in the midst of a full orchestra. You feel very alone, but supported by good vibes of the musicians around you. So the opening of the Allegro and then the opening of the Andante. Alain Trudel has been Ottawa Symphony's conductor since 2016. These past 4 years have been a period of innovation and change for the orchestra. Alain and our board of directors initiated new ventures such as the 3D string project, the Mozart Senecal competition, and new concert venues in Orleans and at Dominion Chalmers. Alain has continued a trend developed by David Curry of programming works by Canadian composers, particularly new and recent works. Some of the new works we played with David were written by Glenn Boer, Christos Hatzis, Peter Paul Kaprowski, and Robert Rival. With Alain, we were introduced to works by composers Walter Boudreau, Scott Good, Howard Shore, and Jeffrey Ryan. Both Curry and Trudel programmed works by Ottawa composers Kelly Marie Murphy and Jan Jarvelep. The OSO's 3D string project in 2018 resulted in the creation of a new work for 3D printed string octet with orchestra by Harry Stafilakis. And just last year, we premiered a new work by Ottawa composer Victor Herbier. Alain Trudel also led us in traditional repertoire, some of which was familiar, but others that were new to the orchestra, such as Richard Strauss's Also sprach Zarathustra, Samuel Barber's cello concerto, and Mahler's Das Lied von der Erde. Gustav Mahler composed several major song cycles for solo voice and orchestra. They are all truly lovely, a real pleasure to play or listen to. During my time with the Ottawa Symphony, we've performed Mahler's song cycles Des Knaben Wunderhorn, Kindertotenlieder, and Das Lied von der Erde once each, and his Songs of a Wayfarer twice. Das Lied von der Erde, or Song of the Earth, was Mahler's last work in this genre. Alain Trudel conducted it with us in 2017 with soloists soprano Susan Platz and tenor Owen McCausland. The second movement is titled The Lonely One in Autumn, and it opens with a beautiful oboe solo. It is typical of Mahler's writing for the oboe, a sad, poignant melody that lies perfectly on the instrument, making the most of the oboe's dark sweetness. Here it is for you now. I've already told you that the Ottawa Symphony musicians and audiences have enjoyed many fine soloists from the faculty of the University of Ottawa's Department of Music. Of course, we have also had many excellent soloists who are not affiliated with the university, both instrumentalists and singers. Instrumental soloists who've played with us include Jeremy Brown, Robert Uchida, Stéphane Tétrault, Nikki Choi, Kirsten Leong, Alexandra da Costa, Rivka Golani, Neil Grip, Jethro Marks, Paul Casey, Shauna Rolston, Jeremy McCoy, and pianists Tony Yang, Christina Petrushka, Jane Coop, and Angela Hewitt. Several of our own OSO musicians have been featured as soloists too. If you are an Ottawa Symphony concert goer, you're sure to remember some of the fine vocal soloists who've been on stage with us. In November 1991, we were honored to have the great Canadian contralto Maureen Forrester as soloist in Verdi's Requiem. This was near the end of her career. 10 years later, in October 2001, the young Misha Brugger-Gossman sang the soprano part of that same work with us. Misha is now at the height of her career, and it was wonderful to have her sing with us again in 2019 in a program of operatic arias. Other fine singers who have performed with us include Julie Nesralla, Gary Relier, Philippe Castagnier, Louis Quilico, Monica Witscher, Mark Pedrotti, Elizabeth Turnbull, Susan Platz, Owen McCausland, and Ben Hepner. Sometimes the Ottawa Symphony is hired by other organizations to provide an orchestral accompaniment. For example, we've played in the pit for Opera Lyra. We heralded the new millennium in a special gala concert at the NAC. And the Ottawa Choral Society has invited us to play with them on many occasions. For the past several years, we've been engaged by the Attila Glatz Company to play their annual Salute to Vienna New Year's concert. This is always a lot of fun, playing waltzes, polkas, and arias with dancers and singers from Austria and directed by a conductor from Vienna. I'd like to leave you today with the waltz theme from Johann Strauss's Die Fledermaus. Thank you for watching my Principal Oboe web segment. It's been really fun for me to revisit these past 40 years with the Ottawa Symphony, and I hope you've enjoyed it too. My colleagues and I look forward to playing for you again in live concert soon.
This episode of RE-JOYce was brought to you by supporters like you. Nous tenons également à remercier nos bailleurs de fonds et partenaires, la Ville d'Ottawa, l'Université d'Ottawa, le Conseil des Arts de l'Ontario, the Ontario Arts Foundation, the Ottawa Community Foundation, the Crabtree Foundation, Canada Council for the Arts, and of course, our presenting sponsor, Alterna Savings. Thanks for keeping tuned to the Ottawa Symphony, and please join us next time. À la prochaine!